A few more steps.
All right.
It says it's setting it up right now.
Perfect. And then once we are live and when someone else is speaking, you can feel free to share the live on your own timeline if you'd like your Facebook fans to be able to see you. And
okay, I see that we're live now.
Excellent. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Betsy Freeman Booking Live weekly show. I'm really excited to be back with you all and some wonderful guests that are new to our show, as well as Flo, who's been with us a few fabulous times. This is a show on healing creativity and the power of art. And so today I have three music lovers and musicians with me, and I'd love to have you all introduce yourselves. Let's start with Flo.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm back. Happy New Year. I'm Flo, and I'm a pop soul artist and music lover.
Matt.
All right, thank you. Hi, I'm Matthew Crofoot. I'm a holistic health and mindset coach. I help people have more energy, less stress, and abundant health. You can find out more at my website, habitualhealth.com. I'm also a former electronic musician, a former DJ, and I've created a children's card game called Fish Food, which is a lot of fun. I'm in LA.
I want to ask about that. Christian.
Hi, I'm Christian. I'm a bass player, keyboardist, and arranger. I've played keys for the JoJo of the Mary Jane Girls.
Awesome. I'm so excited to talk about this with you all, especially because now we're going into, here we are in 2021. I can't believe we landed. I'll say a couple of words about myself. My name is Betsy Freeman. I'm currently streaming to you live from my hometown near Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, out in the country. We've got a bunch of snow on the ground. In normal times, I would be trying to help you all get gigs in public speaking and in music. You know, I'd be running around to your shows and supporting you, but I can't do any of those things right now. But the arts and entertainment are just as important now as they ever have been, and they will continue to be. And hopefully we'll get to the point soon where we'll feel safe enough to go out and create. But I'd love to know more for each of you how the arts and creativity, entertainment have helped keep you connected and keep you feeling supported during this time. So Flo, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. I'm going to try not to, because I'm very passionate about music and I can go on. So I'm going to try to make this a Cliff Notes version. It's kind of, and I don't want to be the dramatic artist, but it's like my lifeline. It's like my my heartbeat. And I know that sounds very cliche, but I don't care. For real, it's been and continues to be my joy. So in the craziness of 2020, yeah, that was a crazy year. Just, focusing on music and, the various things that I feel I need to get done in order to accomplish what is my purpose. That's what's kept me going, and just the creative ideas that, have gotten downloaded into my brain, and just the opportunities and the blessings of getting a chance to work with other creatives and see those things come to life. Has just been amazing. Or sometimes even, in Zoom sessions, sharing that music with others and seeing how it touches or impacts them. It's such a gift. So just the outlet of creative expression and the creation process. You can't put words on it. It's invaluable. It's amazing. I love it.
So have you been able to do co-writing, or is it just perform with others able to still do in the past year?
You know what, like for me, it's like, thank goodness for Zoom and FaceTime and Skype and Messenger and Google Chats, and the list goes on. And I think I am one of those deep people that believe that everything happens in history for the right timing. We needed that, and we could not have. Human beings need connection And as much as we're very limited and restricted with like physical connection, I am so thankful for Zoom and all of those virtual, chat platforms, because that has been a way that I've been able to continue with, you know what I mean, songwriter circles, or, live stream performances, or co-writes, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, or even just conversations with family and friends. It's been, or baby showers or whatever. It's been like, Zoom, kind of a little bit weird when it comes to certain things like birthday parties on Zoom. But yeah, that's a way that conversations, conferences, workshops have continued. And that's what's really helped with trying your best to continue that like connection. So thank goodness for virtual stuff. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Can you hear me okay? Because I got this signal that I am unstable. I want to make sure that can you hear me?
We can hear you. You
A little
freeze
choppy,
once in a while, but we hear you.
Okay. Well, I'll try to get this question out. Do you find that the content of what you're writing is much different because of the pandemic? Or are you able to write about other things? Or is that sort of at the forefront of your mind when you're creating?
Oh, is this for me or because I don't want to take it?
Well,
Matthew,
I want to ask you that sub question just because I'm not sure if I'll get back to you on that when I want to ask you that now.
Oh, okay. You know what the really amazing thing is? I feel like it's the same. I feel like because and for me, obviously, ideally, and I'm gonna, for most of the co-writers or creatives that I've met, there's nothing that equals face-to-face, person-to-person. But the beautiful thing with the advent of, like, again, Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, the list goes on, is that now you can collaborate with someone in Sweden or Australia. You know what I mean? There's one girl that I met through, I don't know, another workshop, and she's in Germany. And she's like, let's collaborate. I'm like, okay, right? So, or, when I've traveled to, Canada, you know what I mean? And was there and still wanted to keep collaborating with people in LA or wherever else. So that didn't stop it. Of course, face-to-face is always best. But so it's just, to me, it's been the continuation of like second best virtual versus face-to-face, but content and vibe and, it just totally hasn't changed. Personally for me, it's everything, was totally fine.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. And Matthew, sorry.
Yeah, either one's fine. Well, really great points, Flo. I'd like to echo what Flo said about really, like, we've been able to leverage technology for that connection that we're desperately missing here. And I really think that the creatives of the world have led the world in kind of adopting that. So I want to give a shout out to my friend Shelby Bond, for instance. He did a thing called the Quarantine Cabaret on YouTube, and he was making all these amazing videos, and it's like just cool stuff. And we were all like in this really depressed and frightened place, and to have people like that doing cool stuff like that, I think really helped create I don't know, like a space for everything to kind of be expressed. For me, on a lesser degree, I felt even creativity was a way for me to connect with people. So for instance, on my birthday, I found one of these technological platforms, and I hosted like an 80s video party night where me and two of my friends picked a bunch of our favorite videos from the 80s and curated a bit of a playlist. And we basically VJ'd like they used to do back on MTV. And then we had like all of our friends on there chatting and stuff. And for my birthday, it was like such a great, this is back in April, right when all this was starting. It was a really great way to connect and also kind of express my creativity around music. So I really love that. And also just things like, Spotify, and be able to kind of create playlists, which are like the modern day mixtape, for lack of a better word, and kind of share that on Facebook with friends and just kind of connect over whatever our creativity is. So another way I'm a little bit creative is I like to make little jokes or like interesting observations. So posting that to an audience of friends and family was nice, although it also can create a lot of people are very sensitive. So some jokes, some humor, which is usually a good way for some people like me to deal with stress and with trying times, actually triggered other people. And they're like, no, like, even if it wasn't something specific about COVID, it definitely, like, they saw it as inappropriate maybe to be joking about anything during this time, which I think is totally wrong, because we do need to, like, laugh and love and be happy and creative and just live, even though this stuff is happening. Like that's really the call as humans. Are we going to step up and embrace our humanity fully, or are we just going to like hide from it and like, shame everyone and make everyone, be overly PC to the point where, we lack any expression. So that's what I have to say.
Well, good. I really resonate with both of what y'all have said. I mean, there's so much more opportunity to connect on some levels, right? Ever since the advent of the internet, we could talk to people that we never would be. And then now with social media, we've created this audience full of people, with very diverse, thoughts and feelings, and our senses of humor could be, across the board. So, how do we, is there such a thing as being oversensitive? I think there is. Is there such a thing? Well, I want to let Christian answer. I don't want to go too far afield with that. But thank you. Those just brought some good points that we might come back to a little bit more later. Christian?
It's interesting because you guys have mentioned that you have been able to continue your creativity through Zoom. I have not at all. My creative life has, ever since the pandemic, really, aside from helping out my brother with some arranging stuff, who I live with, has been pretty much on my own. And that's because I'm an instrumentalist. I'm a keyboard player, I'm a bass player, and I play in 2 cover bands. So, and ever since COVID hit, I have not been able to play with them. And yeah, it's really interesting. I feel like maybe my chops have kind of they've kind of gone down a little bit. I feel like maybe because I haven't really had the time to develop them as much as I'd like to. But that's also partially because I'm working on other stuff. Since I can't do music right now, I've been actually doing a lot of writing and a lot of making 3D models. So that's pretty much how I've been doing it for myself.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you're still being creative. It's just that you're not being creative in the same ways that you're used to, which I think is I think for all of us we've been forced to, and some of it is just I don't know, for me I think some of it is sort of just mood related. It was not because I couldn't, in theory be just as creative as I would be otherwise, because I tend to write music on my own, and I tend to want to be on my own. Like, I don't co-write very much, and I don't, even play with others all that much. I mean, I was working for a couple of churches in the past few years, which I was, no longer able to rehearse with the choir, and I was no longer able to, play for others. But I didn't really feel like I wanted to go searching for new avenues of that. Actually, I mean, and I should say, Chris and I talked about doing some things that we still haven't done. Early on, I was totally all about, I did a couple of play reads and that kind of stuff, which was fun to do virtually. And I was willing to jump into open mics, like virtual open mics. And then I went through a long phase where it didn't sound like fun. And so I was willing to like help record for church services and fill in if needed, but it just felt like work. It didn't feel like it was really uplifting to me. It's uplifting to me that I can still do it, and that, the talent is still there, and that the ability is still there when I need it. But there were only a few times where I really felt like, okay, I really want to go play piano. And I don't know why that happened, because in theory, having all of this empty time that you could fill however you want to seems like it would be this great open door to all kinds of creativity and all these little snippets of things that I wrote 1 line or 2 lines of a poem and then said, but I don't have time to work on it right now because I've got 2 jobs to do and I've got lessons to teach, all that stuff. That could have been the time that I picked it up, and put things together and made it into something. And I'm not saying that to even put a guilt trip on myself, except that I don't really understand it. Like, looking back, I'm like, why didn't it happen? But it's all good. I think that I've had some, this this show has come about, basically as a result of, planning online events, which we weren't doing much of before the pandemic. We planned a couple of online retreats, like as a group, which has been really good. And we learned to plan together. Flo was involved with planning a couple of those events, and I think that was super productive. And I learned some tech, basic tech skills that I didn't have before. And I think I grew in the confidence of planning and developing new things. So I can say that that's come out of this year. So
Betsy, can I chime in?
Alrighty, next. All right, go ahead, please.
I just quickly wanted to say that, like, I've met a lot of creatives this year has like been, it seems like it's crushed or sucked the creativity out of them. So you're not alone. I've met a lot of creatives who felt that way. And one of the things I've come to learn, and I felt better hearing this, is that you can't force creativity. When it comes, it comes. And when it doesn't, just, let it be, walk, live life. But when it comes, like, you will be like like peanut butter to jam, like bees to honey. You're gonna just want to let it out. So it's like when it's meant to come, it'll come, right? And Christian, I don't think your chops will ever go down. You're an incredible bassist. And on top of that, one thing I've also seen with COVID is that it's kind of been a blessing in disguise in the way that it's, for some people who are used to doing work or are used to working with a certain talent, it's almost forced them to cultivate or wake up the sleepy giant with other talents that they have, right? So like the new projects that you're working on, Christian, maybe you wouldn't have gotten a chance to like dig into that had COVID not happened. And it's just showing you how multi-talented you are. You know what I mean? Just some thoughts. Anyways, Betsy,
Thank you.
all yours.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and I think that what you just did is a great example of our next question, that, we all need to be encouraged during this time. And I think for some of us, if we took the pandemic this way and accepted that it was a time for us to sort of rest and heal, maybe in ways that otherwise we wouldn't have rested or healed, are there some ways that the arts are specifically healing for you and have been, whether in this last year or previous? Would each one of you like to share some of your own, maybe about some of your favorite music, your favorite art, your favorite ways to sort of soothe and comfort yourself? Christian, can I come to you first?
Okay. Well, first of all, they've kept me from going completely insane. Though at the beginning of the pandemic, I pretty much just locked myself in my room, quite literally. I didn't really go anywhere or do anything, and I almost lost my mind. And I think playing a little bit because I was doing some online open mics and things like that, and those were kind of fun. And doing that kind of not just kept my mind off of things, but just kind of kept me grounded, because I know that this is what I do, and that is one of my callings. That I know that for sure. I've been doing this long enough that I've back when I was in high school, I made the decision that I was going to be a musician, and I feel like that really grounded me, and I pursued that, and it's taken me a lot of places. It's helped me know who I am. And I just have to remind myself of that. And it can be difficult, but it can be done.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. This time last year, Christian and Flo and I were all at NAMM, with no idea about the pandemic that was about to come upon us. And Christian knew like a gajillion accomplished musicians that were there. We had a lot of fun. And boy, it was nice to be part of this like giant crowd of people who really love music. And anyways, Matt.
All right, let's see how to answer this. For me, I'll definitely talk about music, because that's the thing for me that does it. I think I called it an emotional gateway drug. It really helps me like express my emotions and feel them. So sometimes if I'm not in touch with those things, or I need to help move them out, music does it for me. So after about 2 years ago, I got divorced, and I had a lot of sadness and grief inside of me that I needed to process. And like it just wasn't coming out. So I put on certain music that would kind of tease it out. One of the songs was Fire and Rain by James Taylor. Always just makes me cry for some reason. And it's very cathartic and it feels so good, like just to kind of let it out, or listening to some Amy Mann, which is always very sad, but in a good way, kind of. And then that's what I love about music is we talked earlier before this started about the frequency and vibration of music. There's emotions charged in each song about is pretty much the state of the people creating the music at the time, is embedded in the music, embedded in the lyrics, embedded in how it's presented. And that's why we're drawn, I think, to put on certain songs at certain times, because they help us find those parts of us and express them. So yeah, I've definitely used music for that. Another big challenge for me is I've had a struggle with chronic illness for 20 years, from like heavy metal toxicity and some trauma. And at some point, I actually I lost my connection to music. It just didn't do anything for me for like over a decade, and it was like almost being in the dark. Um, so for me, as I started healing and detoxing and things like that, which is one of the reasons I became a health coach, um, it helped me reconnect to that. One day I started getting tingles when I was listening to a song, and it's just kind of like music guided me back to the light, really, for lack of a better word. And now it's helping guide me to completely clear all the stuck emotions and traumas out of my body, and just be free, light, and buoyant. And there's music for that too, to celebrate and be energetic and to be optimistic. And so thank you, music. And I'm really glad you're there for me.
That's awesome stuff. It's so powerful. It really is. Music is incredibly powerful. And I think we'll talk even more about this next week too, because Matt will be back with us. And Christian will be back with us again, I believe, as well. So we'll definitely be talking more about the power of music. Flo, thoughts on healing?
Well, I think Matthew, you said it so beautifully. I don't think I have that much more to add to that. Like, what I'm going to say is probably very typical of what a lot of people would say. Like, there's a stereotype that artists are very emotional creatures. I kind of fit that stereotype. So, my favorite music has just brought out, like, has either made me feel unstoppable, like I can take on the world, or when I'm having like just a really down day, there's certain songs that just, I feel like that artist connects with me because they're singing that song, right? So just emotion, it's like it's like the soundtrack to life, right? And so I love what it does for me, and it makes me want to do the same for others, right? And sometimes even if I'm working on an idea and I get like a chord progression, and chords to me, even more than lyrics, they just color things, and certain chords can just touch me emotionally. And so when songs give me what I call the goosebump factor, where I listen to a song and I'm just goosebumps from head to toe or just whatever, to me, music is just, it's so powerful. And I won't be on that. I'm so jealous because I love talking about the power of music on that, what you guys are going to talk about next week. So I'm just going to tap a smidge into that and just like say that I truly do believe that music is one of the most powerful and influential mediums. You know what I mean? It has changed, and it leads culture. It defines and shapes culture. And it is like changed, like, for example, like Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell, Leonard Cohen, like with the 60s, the singer-songwriter, decade, like, oh my gosh. And it's usually music that like pushes the envelope and says and speaks things that a lot of people are thinking but aren't necessarily bold enough to say. It makes you think, it makes you feel. So yeah, it's powerful. And yeah, a lot of people go to it for healing and solace and connection. Like somebody else feels the same way I do. I love it. And I'm going to stop because I can go on forever when it comes to music. But yeah,
we've got more time. I will say, certainly in healing from relationships, or, feeling sad or lonely or frustrated, in a relationship, there's definitely been like eras of my life when there's certain singer-songwriters that I would listen to, over and over again. And certain songs then become like your friend, and for the rest of your life, you'll go back and remember how that song was really like your friend that got you through this hard time. And it gives you, words that you might not have your own words for those emotions until somebody else says it, or, "You're so vain" comes to mind as a good example, just who knows if you've been in a relationship with an egomaniac, not like I would ever do that, but anyways, but you look back and go, boy, and it's interesting how there's can come a point when you're just dwelling right in that emotion. And I've even had friends to say to me, what are you listening to? Why are you listening to this? What are you thinking about when you listen to this song? And then there's definitely been times where I feel like, okay, time to stop and to turn something else on or listen to something else to try to get myself out of that, sort of more teenage funk. But it isn't just a teenage thing. It's really for all different points of life. And I can't tell you how many times there's been just moments that I just really feel that were divinely orchestrated, honestly, where I heard a song that I hadn't even thought of in years, or maybe even hadn't heard in 10 or 20 years, but it brought me to a different place of being like, feeling like, man, I am cared about. I am loved in a very specific way. And, there's stuff like that where you're like, man, I couldn't have made this up, there's a special kind of gift to that kind of art. And, that's why I think, as a songwriter and as a creator, as much as I would like to write a hit song, I also, man, that stuff is important. It's like that space of communicating with another person is very sacred, even if the people who are listening to you, and maybe especially if you've never met those people, that are going to hear your songs. Lots of people have influenced me that I've never met, and it's kind of weird to think about it that way, but definitely true. Does anyone have anything else they want to add? Because you all are like stopping yourselves, and I don't want to stop on this topic if you have more to say.
Christian, you go after you.
Okay. I guess going back to what Flo was saying about the power of music, for me, music is a language. It really is. And not just in the linguistic sense, but it also speaks to like the reptilian part of our brain. And it says things that spoken language cannot communicate to us. And it really does it in a very special way. And that I'm glad that humans were able to come up with something like that, because it's really all it is ordered tones, but we're able to do it in a way that says something to someone. And I think that's really powerful.
And I think, like, isn't it such an honor, you guys, when you think about it, that like, okay, first of all, we're able to create, because we don't realize that creating things, it changes the world. Like, I'm going to go as far as to say, like, the creation of the light bulb, the creation of the airplane, the creation of the car. But like movies that have just, changed, like people speak about like, certain movies that just changed their thought process, or totally, they'll never forget that, right? And that started off as a thought. You know what I mean? Just the same thing with songs. And so like, it's such a great responsibility when you're a creator. Betsy, when you said that there have been like songwriters that or artists that you'll never meet, but they don't know how much they've influenced you, right? So like being creators, you guys, like what a blessing and honor to know that we're going to be a part of creating art, be it music or film or TV or animation or whatever scripts, that is going to, whether it just touches one life or 1,000 or 10,000, but just knowing that you know, it's going to have that effect. And it's a great responsibility, but an honorable responsibility. Do you know what I mean? To like put something out into the world that is going to somehow touch someone. To me, that's just so awesome. So amazing. I love it.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that you're speaking to people that you'll potentially never meet, or people, or you're influenced by people that you'll never meet. I've met a lot of my heroes. I really have. And the they live out what they do. And I can see that in every single one of them that I've met.
Awesome. Wow. That's really powerful. Because I was going to say, actually, I think that, you know, many of us don't live up to our own best artistic moments. You know, I think that a lot of us, you know, for at least speaking for me, I think that I could certainly write about the kind of virtuous, wonderful things that I see, you know, and want, but it's still an ideal that I personally might not live up to. I don't think I would live up to anybody's ideal of what they saw or thought of me from reading something that I wrote.
I wasn't speaking on that from a lyrical standpoint, more from a musical standpoint. Basically, a lot of them who are musicians, they really care about the craft, and they live it and they do it, and it was awesome to meet them, to see that I had that same drive within me to continue to do a lot of the things that they were doing 30, 40, 50 years ago, that they saw that someone like me who was born in the early 90s, taking an interest in what they were doing, and actually not just taking an interest, actually going out there and doing it. They really appreciated that. And I could actually see that in them. Actually, the bass player who passed away from Tower of Power, Rocco Prestia, he signed my bass, and he has the KYDA, Keep Your Dreams Alive, on it. So I'm really appreciated that.
What a cool gift.
Mm-hmm.
What a cool gift. Yeah, I will say this year, you know, after months of not going to hear any live music, so it had been, you know, at least from, I don't know, March to September or October, I went out to a restaurant that had an outdoor patio in Charlotte, and there was someone playing covers and playing, I think it was Blackbird. And I mean, you know, I've taken for granted, you know, even though I love music, I've taken that kind of thing for granted in ways that all of a sudden I didn't. I mean, I almost started crying just right there at the table, because I realized that it's been this wonderful presence to be able to go somewhere and hear someone play and sing live. It's been this gift in the background of so much of my life. You know, and that person, I don't know his name, and I probably will never know his name, and he'll probably never be famous, but he's still doing something really awesome and changing the whole atmosphere for, you know, the 30 people that were there. And yeah, I'll never look at it the same way after this year. Okay, so next question. What do you think that this generation needs most right now in terms of art inspiration and themes in art? What's going to keep us encouraged? What's going to keep us inspired? If you were going to write a screenplay or a song, you know, and you can have more than one answer to this question if you like. What do you think is going to help see us through the next few years? Matt, can I start with you?
You can. So I actually don't have a good answer for this, so I'm not going to pretend like I do, but I do have an interesting answer. It's kind of a cautionary tale from my own life. I kind of grew up during the 80s, the rat race, and the time period where it was all about like just work, and everything you do has to have like be productive. It has to have like some sort of like commercial value to it. There's no room for like fun or play or frivolity or any of that stuff. So I find myself at later in life that like I'm lacking those things in life that because I was so serious and so focused on results and things like that. So my message to the younger generation is to make time for fun and play, and make time to do stuff that maybe you can't sell or doesn't necessarily have like you know like something on your to-do list. It's just something to kind of express or be free or um, to to live, I guess. So, and that's a message to myself as well. It's something I'm trying to rediscover. So, thanks.
That's so good. It's really important. Flo?
Matthew, I'm glad you went first because your thoughts are like, I loved what you prefaced what you said with, in the way that I definitely don't have a perfect answer for that. That's a deep, well, fully loaded question. And I will say that, like, I guess I'll just go back to what is my default, because I'm an inspiration junkie. I love inspiration. And I think for any human being, I guess what I would say is, do what you love. Be comfortable in the skin that you're in. And for some people that takes time, but like, know who you are and own it, because there's no other person who's going to be like you in this world. And like, there's no mistake. You're here in this time in history for a reason. So it's like, figure out like your strengths, your weaknesses, what makes you tick, what doesn't. Own it and just do it, be it, and live it. You know what I mean? Whether it be through your art, whether it be through your gifts, whatever it is, own who you are and live that 100% vicariously, and share that as your gift with the world. I don't know if that's the proper answer, but that's the answer I'll give.
I love that. Christian.
I spoke with a script consultant last year in the summer, and I'm going to completely butcher what she said, but essentially what she was saying was, at the time I was writing my script and I was afraid that it was going to be so much like so many of the other things that I love so much. And she told me not to worry about that everything that could be written about has been written about. It's your voice that counts. What are your experiences, your attitudes, your feelings that make what you do unique? And I feel like that's probably the best answer to that question, is to find yourself in whatever you're doing, even if you're doing a complete carbon copy of something else, which I'm totally not against. I'm a classical musician, but find yourself in that.
It's good. Yeah, I think in a way, mine is sort of similar to yours, Christian, in that, I don't think that there is just one message or theme that, the entire generation necessarily needs to know. But your own stories and your own experiences are powerful and important. I think maybe because we're in the age of the selfie and build your own business and promote your own stuff and take care of yourself. One of the most transformative things that I came to understand as a young person was that this is about collaboration, that artists never really truly work alone. And, even though, as I said, I usually do write and edit by myself and put together stuff, that way that putting together an event, putting together a project, putting together a movie, any great work of art as it came to market had a really strong team. And in your life, whatever you do, it doesn't have to relate to being artistic necessarily. The people right around you along the way are the people that, help you make it fun. They help you keep sane. They help keep you stable, and you become a better person when you are listening to others and you are, you know, adapting and refining your work in light of who your audience is, that you care about your audience, that you care about, and that you talk about it with your team of who, you know, who your audience is and what they really need, and that you care about them. And I think that message has kind of gotten lost. You know, it's sort of like, oh, you'll be fine, you know, whatever it is you want to do, get determined and make it happen and manifest it. Well, okay, but if you're manifesting a product that, you know, there's still a right and wrong time for a lot of things, and there's still a right and wrong you know, product. Where Flo and I were talking about excellence a little bit before we went live. There's also a standard of excellence that you might not know that you need to meet unless you have some good advisors around you. So, I mean, as an artist, I'm really grateful that I've been surrounded by people who have a heart for excellence. And that, you know, even though I'm way behind in my own idea and timeline of the excellent things that I want to produce, for being the age that I am, that I still know what it takes. And so I'm willing to wait, and, you know, however long it takes to get all of those factors together that I need, the money and the, you know, all the different elements of whatever big project I have going, that it's more important to me that I have exactly the right thing together before I put it to market. And so I think patience, honestly, patience is probably the biggest thing that I wish that I had in greater measure as a younger person, and that I hope that we can help understand about each other, to give each other and ourselves more patience to grow. So then I think we won't be so frustrated.
Mm-hmm. If I can add to what you were saying, or at least kind of give a different perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the standards of excellence and that you might not even know that you need to reach those. And I do agree with that. But I think it's also something to consider that the standards of excellence kind of shift with time, especially in the arts. And
that's a great point.
I would say don't be jaded by that. Again, going back to what I said earlier, what Shannon E. Johnson said to me, not to worry about that. Know who you are. Know your limit. Also, I'm going to add another great quote from Greg Fillinganes, who played with Stevie Wonder and Michael Jackson. He said, know your limitations, because if you know your limitations, you can work within them, and then you can create something great within that. So I would say really to know yourself and to stay grounded, know what you can do, know what you like, and work within that.
That's good. Anyone else have anything else to add?
Yeah, like I agree that timing, patience is definitely important. And I also I've come to realize that perfect timing, do you know what I mean? And being a spiritual person, like a lot of times I may think I'm ready. A lot of times I may think now is it, but I don't realize the greater factors. The other people are going to be part of the piece of the puzzle. The other, the timing, you know, in history, like maybe 2021 is more of a year where people need more inspirational, you know what I mean? And versus 2 years ago wasn't the right time. People want a more edgy and dark, right? So it's just, I think there's some factors that are above and beyond us, but I think we just need to be patient and trust that somehow, some way things will connect, and our art that we're carrying will come out of us. For some guys are like birth, whatever, but it'll come out of us at the right time. And Christian, I love what you mentioned about excellence. You're right, because I never saw it from that perspective, but the only way I'll slightly disagree is I think that, standards have changed, because a pop record, you know what I mean? The compression and the mastering is very different from the time of Ella Fitzgerald, right? Or Motown, very different. But still at the end of the day, now when we listen to Ella's stuff, when we listen to the Supremes or Pops, it's still, I think for every human ear or every gut, you know what is, whether it's a black and white film from 1920s or a Spielberg movie now, you know what is a product of excellence, right? And so at the end of the day, I feel we as creatives, or whatever you do, and this is just a me thing. I feel like there's just this peace and this sigh of relief when what you're bringing out into the world is what, like, and you feel is excellence, and you're bringing out your best to share with people. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I'd rather be patient, not perfectionistic. That's something completely different, but be patient and know and have that peace. Okay, I'm proud of this, and this is the best I can make it. Now it's time to share it with the world.
Right.
I have that's a good point, Flo. I have one more thing to add too that you guys kind of stirred up in me is a message for the younger artists is to be able to accept like information from people that have come before you, but also know when to like ignore that basically. So especially when it comes to like things like production or how, like we're talking about standard of excellence, that's really good stuff to learn your craft, learn to like, quantize your beats or whatever, and learn about velocity, otherwise like everything sounds like you just don't have control over what you're trying to make. But if you overproduce it, then it loses its soul. So at some point you have to let the artistic vision and your creativity, never let that be compromised, because that's your unique voice, like Christian said earlier.
That's good. Christian, did you have something you wanted to say?
I don't remember.
Okay, we'll come back. Yeah, I was thinking the other thing too that I had to learn early on, and actually I'm still working on it, is not to, covet the gifts of others, because because some of them are natural gifts and some are things that you have to develop, even like social gifts. Like I noticed like Courtney, for example, she is really able to encourage artists, wherever they are at with their songwriting. And she has a great deal of gentleness and sweetness and patience. I, on the other hand, listening to music that I don't like I have a very hard time even like changing my face. If I don't like it, I don't like it. And honestly, don't even want to sit there and listen to it. And it's not something that I really like about myself even. And, whether it's just, I wish that but at the same time, maybe I was just created differently. I wasn't called to do all the same things, the same way that she is. And rather than waste my time trying to force myself into a different, mold, or kick myself, or just say, well, maybe I should have spent that time writing a song because that was what I was supposed to do today. So.
Well, Betsy, I think Courtney's a unicorn like that, because most people, including myself, and I'm a people watcher. So when I've gone to everywhere from like hotel cafe or to open mics and a new artist goes on, I like to watch to see how people respond. And you can tell the ones that move people and the ones that have lost people, or where people are like, whoa, this is clashing with me, right? You can tell, right? So I think Courtney's very unique in the way that she's able to encourage everybody. But I think most of us, and that's kind of what creates like some of those artists who have the it factor, because they have this way of moving the masses. And a lot of people aren't able to do it that way, right? So I think it's a natural thing for human beings that you like what you like and you're drawn to what you're drawn to. And if you're not drawn to it, it's not your thing. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah, I'm very similar to you. If I love it, I love it. If I don't, I can't force it.
Nope. And it's interesting because I still at the same time would encourage everyone to do it. Go sing at an open mic. Go make everyone else suffer. No, not really. But just, go, you don't have to be great at everything. Art is there, like Matt said, like we're meant to go play. Like art is a gift for those of us who sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time. I'm terrible with that. For those of us who, can't dance, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't, and so, yeah, that's one of those contradicting things. Matt has a question for everyone.
Yeah, I have a quick question that kind of came up for me, and hopefully it's a short question, but we'll see. So it's this for the room. Do you feel that you need an audience for your art? Are you happy just to make it in isolation just for yourself, or does there have to be someone that eventually connects to you or sees it, or is it just not worth it? So Betsy, why don't you go first?
Okay. Yeah, it's funny because I used to feel that, I guess I think that was just more of an insecurity that I had, that I felt that my songs needed an audience. And it's like the songs that I've written over the last 10 or 12 years, I've gotten to go play them out in public for the most part. And then I got a nice reception to them, but like, I don't really feel that need to do that right now. So it's kind of like, yeah, I had that time. Yes, I would like to put more time and energy into making better, like recorded, more layered versions of some of those songs sometime if the opportunity presents itself. But I don't feel like it's like super important to me. Whereas in past years, I guess I would have felt more frustrated if they never saw the light of day at all. So I think I go through phases.
Well, thank you. Christian, why don't you go next? Let's say you wrote a song and no one ever heard it. Would that be a tragedy, or would it make your heart sing still?
If I'm in love with the song, I'm in love with the song. I don't care. If others care about it, that's great. And I would like for that to happen, but it's not the end of the world if I don't have that.
Cool, thank you. And Flo, you're up.
So I'm going to be the opposite of you guys. I'm being very transparent, and this is just being real and knowing who I am. That's the artist in me, because I create, like, I get joy from creating something I'm so proud of. I'm like, and I want, like, I feel like I'm itching and bubbling. I'm like, oh, I want to get this out. I want people to hear it, right? But it's the same thing. If I see a really inspiring thing on YouTube, I'm like, this is so good. It touched me. I need to share this with others. Maybe it's part of my makeup and my personality, but I think it's also the artist in me, where I love creating music, recording it, and getting on stage and performing it, and seeing people connect with it, or people coming to me after the show or sending me a message and saying, oh, that touched. And I'm like, yes, that's a gift for me. Like, I mean, it feels like Christmas when that happens, right? So for me, if I believe in it, heck yes. I'm like, yes, let's get this out into the world. If I don't believe in it, I don't want to share it. But if I do, that's to me, that's the reward. I songwrite to get lyrics to the melodies and chords that pop in my head. And when it feels right and feels magical, I'm like, oh my goodness, I've got a Christmas gift for this person or that person. I can't wait to give it to them. So that's just me. I can't wait to just share that with everybody else. So
very inspiring. Very inspiring. Go ahead, Christian.
What's interesting is that I used to be the same way. And in some ways I still am. Like, I love sharing music with other people. I love it. I like to let people know, hey, this is awesome. Check this out. But a lot of the times people just don't care, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That's a good point.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point. I wanted to share a point or two as well. So there's an author, Seth Godin, I think, that writes that in order to have art, you need another person on the other end. So you do need that connection. Something I've seen that a lot of artists are driven by, like, getting some sort of feedback, like flow, it's like, or like the gift. It's like, without the other person to give the gift to and to get the response from, it really takes a lot out of it. In my own life, like, imagine like DJing to like a room of one with no one in it. Sounds like my personal hell. And part of it too is we get, especially in live performance, we get feedback from the audience, and it creates a bigger experience. So I can definitely see it going both ways, but the most prolific artists, I think, are slightly mad and they're driven to create. It's like this deep need to create. So on that side, you can still do it because it's catharsis for you. But then the other side is the reward and payback, like Flo said. So go ahead.
I would also like to add. I would also like to add that some of the greatest musicians I've ever heard in my life, most of you have probably never heard of them.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true. One of my favorite singer-songwriters is Charlotte Martin, who's she plays piano and sings, and I've known each other for many, many years, and it's shocking to me that she has a very devoted audience, and there are many, many musicians out there who have a really devoted audience, but they're just, there, I guess that pyramid of like, real, fame is very small. And I think that's why when I started to realize what an uphill trek it would be, whether it was singing or acting, and how much rejection I would have to endure to try to make that my full-time occupation, I just started to realize that I wasn't made for that like just emotionally, spiritually, relationally, I wasn't made to, I would not be healthy at all if I put my identity in that. And so that's why I do it for fun. And I'm like, it would be really great if something succeeds, and I'm willing to put a certain amount of my energy behind each project. And I'll go for long periods of time through that process if I need to, if I really believe in it. And if it picks up some momentum, if I start to get a lot of encouragement for a particular project and I feel like, okay, if I just keep pushing, it'll get there. But if I'm not so sure, man, I'm going to do something else, because I just need a lot of encouragement, I think, is part of it. So if I love something and I don't get a great reaction, the first or second or third time, man, I'm not going to bring that out for a while, because I'm going to still love it. And I don't want to hear anything, and silence is the hardest, actually. When you hear nothing, that's really hard. So.
Right. Yeah, and going back to some of what you were saying, I'm blessed enough to have been able to actually be a musician and actually do this, and worked with incredible artists like Rose Royce and Mary Jane Girls, Joshua Aaron, just all these people, and I was blessed to be born into a family that did this, that are musicians, that are out there doing it. So I'm just grateful for that.
And I think, oh, sorry, Betsy, you're going to say something?
Oh, please.
And I think also it depends on, and I don't want to get all deep into destiny and calling, but I do really feel it also depends on like what you feel you're born to do or meant to do. Like there are certain people who aren't going to like hit the gym at 4:00 in the morning and do laps back and forth, or or go to the gym before school and go to the gym after, because unless you're meant to be an Olympic athlete, or you want to make the NFL or NBA, because to the average person, that's just too much wear and tear on the body. And they're like, I want to sleep in, or I want, right? And just like that drive, for example, to create something, when you like, even when some people reject it, but somewhere in your gut, you're like, no, this is something. And if you don't believe in it, and I do, and somebody else will. Like, for example, the story of Megan Trainor with All About That Bass. There's so many other examples of that, but for some reason that one's in my head. She went to different places, like, and some of these conferences will even say, yeah, we heard it and we didn't see something in it. And then like months later becomes like the biggest hit. So, but she stuck to her guns, right? So I think, and then there's like, for example, for me, music is that, you know what I mean? But like I used to also sketch and draw, and I still do have my old sketchbooks, and they weren't bad, right? But I don't really have that desire to like share like the sketching and drawing was just for fun, right? Writing short stories was just for fun. I never had that desire to put it out there. It was just my release for fun. Music though, man, I tell you, that's something completely different. There's a crazy fire within where it's like, I gotta keep doing it. You know what I mean? So I think it all depends. There's some stuff that is playing. There's some stuff that just grabs a hold of you, and there's way more to it, So it's just knowing who you are and what you're, yeah.
That's right. Matt?
Yeah, that's the end of this question. So thanks for letting me ask it. I thought it was a good one. Thanks everyone for your answers.
Yeah.
Back to you, Betsy.
Well, I think we're out of time. It's been almost an hour that we've been talking. This has been fantastic. I know Matthew and Christian are going to be back with me again next week, and Tim Langelo will be with us. And so we're going to continue to talk about music and the power and quality and any other fun things that we can touch on. Flo, thank you so much for being here. This has been absolutely wonderful. Anyone who's watching, thank you so much. And as you watch this on a replay, feel free to comment. We'll come back and engage with you, and all of you too, please feel free to give us your post your websites and your socials if any folks want to engage you for future gigs and future work. So thank you all for being with us.
Thank
Cheers.
you.